Risk and reward. Today's topic is risk and reward, a major consideration when defining what we're calling game essence, one of the key categories I'll be covering on this channel. Since it's such a crucial topic, I'll be taking some extra time today to walk you through it. I've been talking about this subject since I went independent in 2003, so it might be a retread for some of you. I'll try to keep things concise. So, what is this game essence? You could say it's all the elements that make a game fun, but that's not very clear. To me, it's a game's push and pull, or risk and reward. Take this game, for example, the classic shoot-'em-up Space Invaders. A pioneer in its genre, this 1978 arcade game became a social phenomenon in Japan. The concept is simple. Use a laser cannon to fight off hordes of invading alien ships. The invaders move horizontally to the edge of the screen, then shift downward. If they reach the bottom, you've been invaded and it's game over. I'm going to use this game to explain risk and reward. Your cannon and the invaders only shoot straight up and down. So in the configuration shown, neither attack has any chance of landing. Let's call this a no risk, no reward state. Now let's inch our cannon over to the right just a little bit. The closer we get to the invader, the more likely we are to get hit by its beams. The risk to our safety increases, but our reward is almost in reach. Let's move even closer. Now we're really in trouble. The enemy can hit us. By now, the risk is quite high. But we can finally hit the enemy and get our well-deserved reward. Take risks to get rewards. This push and pull is the very core of game essence. It also has a big impact on what we call strategy, which is essentially the same thing through a different lens. Game essence is the fun of managing risks and getting rewards. And strategy is how you manage those risks to get rewards. One is about mechanics and the other is about the player. Now, let's get back to Space Invaders and talk about strategy. When the invaders are positioned like this is what their attack range looks like. They shoot downward, so they can only hit what's below them. Note that there are safe zones under each of the bunkers. However, since the invaders move sideways, their true attack range is diagonal. That's because they've already moved away by the time their beams reach the ground. Do you see it? Let's take a closer look. When an invader is moving to the left, this is what its attack range looks like, meaning our cannon becomes vulnerable when it's inside this range. If we pursue the invader from the right, our cannon will enter its attack range when we try to get close. Our risk here is very high, but our lasers can't hit the invader, so we've put ourselves in danger for nothing. If we intercept from the left, though, the cannon overlaps the invader's attack range just as much as it did from the right. It's the same level of risk, but this time the target is within our sights. In other words, the best strategy is to intercept invaders, not pursue them. Play the game for a bit and you'll feel it for yourself. Don't follow them, let them come to you. Also, your cannon's width is key to game balance because it determines how great your risk is. It's more than just visual design. A different sized cannon could change how deep and engaging the game is. Mechanics that vary your risk are also important to game balance, like the ability to hide halfway under a bunker. Strategy is all about using ingenuity to reduce risks and get rewards. Imagine how Space Invaders would feel with a three-way laser. It might look cool, but it probably wouldn't be the best game design. Of course, it might be okay if enemies also shoot diagonally, or if you have limited ammo. Next, I'd like to talk about a classic technique. The Wall of Death, or Nagoya attack. If an invader reaches the bottom, it's game over, no matter how many lives you have left. In that sense, you're at extreme risk in these final frantic moments. But the invader's beams can no longer hit you, so the cannon itself is impervious to all risk. In other words, the Wall of Death is a state of ultimate risk, ultimate reward. But one mistake and you're invaded, but your cannon is invincible. Really, it's a brilliant mechanic. I love it. Though, I get the feeling the Wall of Death is a bug. When an invader fires a beam at you, it should start from around here, right? That's what you'd think. But if you look extra close, you'll see it doesn't. The beam actually starts from this position down here. Quite a large gap. So if your cannon is right under an invader, the beam will start below the cannon's hitbox and miss it entirely. Even if it is a bug, it's fascinating that a game from this era can contain such a neat mechanic. Let's look at one more game. The timeless masterpiece Super Mario Bros. Stomping on enemies and using them to attack is a big part of the fun of this classic. At least, let's start with the assumption that it's fun. What constitutes fun is subjective, so some of you might disagree and say it's boring. But let's not open that can of worms. You can't be a chef if you can't discern taste. And with games, you need to be able to sniff out what makes games fun. Look at this enemy in Mario's path. If the two are far apart, the enemy can't possibly hurt Mario, hence the risk is very low. But as Mario gets closer, the risk of taking damage grows higher and higher. Uh-oh, it's just a few steps away. Mario needs to jump to avoid the threat. But this also opens an opportunity for Mario to attack as well. So we jump and stomp on the enemy when we're at the highest possible risk. That's the only time we can beat the Koopa Troopa. And therein lies the fun. The consequences for missing a jump and the difficulty of controlling Mario in mid-air only enhance the thrill and satisfaction. Afterward, Mario can kick the Koopa shell and chase after it for extra points or even a 1-up. Pretty nice reward, right? But with that reward comes the risk of the shell bouncing back and hurting Mario. It's a wonderfully designed mechanic. Risk and reward must be in close proximity and in the right amounts. Always look for exciting ways to link the two or add twists. That's all for this video. In past lectures, I've talked at length about game essence from various angles. Fighting games, racing games, falling block puzzlers, RPGs, strategy games, and even card games. I've explained in depth what makes each one fun, so I won't get into that here. But I do believe this line of thinking is a powerful tool for finding the fun in games. Still, I should note, game essence, or push and pull, is just one part of a game's broader identity. There are countless other ways for games to immerse and entertain you, not just through what I've described here. We'll be talking more about that topic sometime soon. Lastly, this might come as a shock after everything I just said, but I'd like to share a theory with you. As you increase game essence, you reduce a game's broad appeal. In the first Kirby game, for example, I deliberately made it simpler in order to appeal to a wider audience. In any case, in this channel, we'll be defining game essence as the risk and reward found within games. Please look forward to it. Stage clear.